Joined now by the great Don Fischer. Hello, Don. How are you, sir?
Morning, guys. Good to be with you.
Lots to talk about for Indiana over the weekend. You've looks apparently a new offensive coordinator. Michael Penix is in the transfer portal, and Indiana wins the Big Ten opener over Nebraska. So all kinds of stuff going on.
Well, and then the Syracuse game, too, last week, even though they lost a terrific comeback performance by an Indiana ball club, it was down 18. All those things are so positive. And I looked at the Syracuse game as, it's your first road game. It's the first time you've been on the road with your new coach, the new coaching staff. There are a lot of things that are going through the process there, learning about how you handle things both on the road and in a place like the Carrier Dome, which is one of those big facilities that doesn't give you great sight lines from a shooting perspective, those kinds of things. And then you get almost nothing from a bench that has been very productive throughout most of this season and give them good minutes. The bench couldn't quite get it done. The starters come back in. Indiana's down 18 at halftime, and they come back and make a double overtime game out of it. I was just so proud of the way they fought their way back into this one. And great performances from the two guys that you expect to be consistently good from a shooting perspective, and Parker Stewart and Miller Kopp, joining Trace Jackson Davis and Race Thompson, who had great ball games themselves. Both had a double-double. So, yeah, you know what? I was disappointed in them losing. They had opportunities to win it several times in those two overtime periods, but they didn't get it done at the end. Sometimes you learn from your mistakes, and man, did they have a lot of mistakes in this ball game because of the 26 turnovers that gave Syracuse 33 points. So from that perspective alone, just to be in the ball game was probably more than you could have expected. And then on top of that, to be able to take it to two overtimes, being down 18, that's just saying saying something about your ball club and the personality that you're developing.
Yeah, they did everything right except for hold on to the ball, like you said. The turnovers, that's what killed them. I mean, my God, they shot 41% from 3-point, and that's on 27 attempts.
Right.
And between these two teams alone, there was 61 3-point attempts taken. 61. That's a lot. And free throws, Indiana shot 74% at the line in that game. So when you see those good things, especially like you said, in a place like the Carrier Dome, that's not fun to shoot in, and Indiana is continuing to do most of things well. The turnovers, Charlie, those are things that you can and usually clean up, I would assume.
Well, yeah, you double what Coach Woodson would like to have, and now you have to play with a deficit because when you're on the road and people are converting your turnovers, those live ball turnovers. That's a deficit in itself. Then you have to shoot a high percentage for me from the 3-point range and 2-point range. So that kind of puts you in a bind. But I'm glad they fought back. I think that was awesome to see, to fight back. I mean, there's a lot of hope and optimism for me because of that fight back and dog. Certainly, we got a dog. We have a dog back in us a little bit. We got some winning ways in us. That's so pretty promising.
Yeah, the other thing, Jim and Charlie, the other thing that was in evidence this week, Indiana got nothing from their bench in the Syracuse game. I think maybe Christian Lander, gave him some positive minutes when he was in there because of foul trouble, that kind of thing. But they really got not much from the bench. And then in the Nebraska game on Saturday, the bench sparks them. I mean, these guys, Anthony Leal led that group with a big 3-point shot as soon as he comes off the bench. Tamar Bates comes in and scores a career-high 13 points. The freshman from Texas does a great job in that ball game, or Kansas City, I should say. And when you look at what Indiana is doing now, they are developing. It's a process. It's a process. It takes time, and they had turnover problems in the first half of the Nebraska game too, and then they cut those out for the most part in the second half. It's a process. It takes time. You're building your team, the personality of your team. The other thing that Woodson has done, I think, is he made really good adjustments, especially at halftime. whatever they're doing at halftime, they come out and they just play different, and it's adjusting to what the other team is doing. So that tells you that the coaching staff is doing all the right things as well. So what I'm seeing right now is development in this basketball team. And they've got to cut the turnovers out. If they get rid of the turnovers and get down to a reasonable number in each ball game, they're going to have a ball club that's going to be tough to deal with throughout this basketball season. And that's all Indiana fans are looking for this year. They want to see improvement. They want to see development. And they want to see a team that fights. And right now we're seeing all those things.
Exactly.
Yeah, Don, to follow up on what you're saying, it seems like a lot of times there's a different guy that kind of steps up off the bench, whether it's Anthony Leal, Christian Landers had his spots, Tamar Bates. And that's growth. You talk about the growth.
Right.
There you go. You're growing your bench. And I think that's exactly what they're doing with it being a different guy and saying, hey, here's an opportunity. Anthony Leal, Coach talked about him needing more minutes in a presser prior to that, and he lived up to his word. There's Leo, and comes in, and every time he does not seem to ever get rattled. He's able to maintain and knock down a three or whatever, and that's with the not having the playing time that he has had. That's mature of him. He does not get rattled out there.
No, I like what I see from Anthony. There's no question. He hasn't had a lot of minutes at this point in the season, but you're right. He's come in and he's done what they've asked him to do. And he doesn't seem you're right. He doesn't get rattled out there. And the one thing I will tell you that everybody has talked about Anthony Leal this year, anytime you've had a conversation with it where his name comes up, they talk about how he has been the hardest working player on the court in practices throughout the entire process since Mike Woodson's come on board. So this kid is working to get better and better, and he's got a lot of work to do. There's no question about that. He's still learning, but he is one of those guys that you could say, you know what, he's making progress, and it shows on the court.
I have to take it to a football direction. We have had no official announcements, but it looks like Walt Bell is going to be the next offensive coordinator for Indiana, which he's most recently a head coach at UMass. But that is what we're seeing and hearing right now, Don.
Well, and I don't know much about Walt Bell other than the fact that he was the head coach at UMass, and I know he's been an assistant coach elsewhere, those kinds of things. I don't know enough about him to really comment too much at this juncture. He didn't have a very good 3 years at UMass, I can tell you that. His record was abysmal. But you know what? Here's the thing. There are a lot of guys that become head coaches that have been coordinators that just don't have success and in their first stint as a head coach. And then they get fired and they go someplace else. They have more success, and then they come back and they're really good. So you just don't.
Cameron did not have great success as the head coach, but was one of the best offensive coordinators at all of his stops that he went to. I just think that sometimes that's just not a position for someone, and where they can just focus on what they do best. And
Kevin Wilson.
Boom.
I mean, there you go. I mean, perfect example.
Does anyone have an easier job in the world than Kevin Wilson right now?
He might argue with you a little bit about that just because they got beat recently by a team that they don't like getting beat by, but nevertheless.
Speaking of that, how about the Michigan Wolverines, man? Going to not only represent the Big Ten or win the Big Ten, but going to go to the college football playoffs.
Right.
And looking strong, probably the strongest the Big Ten has looked for a long time.
Well, we're going to find out because they're going to play a Georgia team that looks pretty good too. And even though they got getting clobbered, in fact, by Alabama, who is really, I mean, is anybody shocked that Alabama's there? I'm not. Nick Saban is one of the best football coaches in the history of college football. Whether you like him or not, personality-wise, nobody gets off in his personality, but the guy just knows what he's doing as a college football coach. So I don't know much. Again, if Walt Bell is the guy, great, and we'll see what he can do with this Indiana offense. But I still am concerned. I think there's a lot of things to be concerned about. Of course, Michael Penix is in the portal now. We kind of anticipated that was going to be the case because of his physical struggles throughout his career at Indiana, not being able to stay healthy in any way, shape, or form. And I wish Michael the best because obviously he's had a tough go, no question about that. That said, this football team still has a lot of questions that have to be answered. And I think I don't know if Tom is done with changes in his staff or anything like that. If he is, we'll just have to wait and see how that all plays out because I think that still is something that's concerning.
Absolutely. I was surprised that we haven't seen more changes. I should have jumped around, but up next, Indiana. Well, it's not. Yeah, Wisconsin. Indiana stays in the Big Ten this Wednesday, traveling to a place that they just have not had a lot of. We were just talking about this with Charlie. Charlie was on the last team to win at the Kohl Center. He said they opened it up and they beat them then, and that's the last win for Indiana up there.
Yeah, it's 23 years, Charlie, in case you're counting.
Yeah. Hey, no. It does. I was
Damn,
in the ballpark.
Charlie, that makes you old, man.
I know. I was in the ballpark because I told them that was the first time we played in the Kohl Center, and I told them a little insight. I started doing this little press at the end of the game. I said we wanted between 8 and 10 points. I knew it. And Coach Knight gave me a jab or two because he was like, "What the hell you were doing? Why were you doing this?" I was trying to speed him up. And it worked, right? And he laughed at it a little bit. But and Jim said we won by 10. So I was like, I knew it was something around there, but I didn't realize the last time we won at the Kohl Center.
Charlie, it was 69-59 was the final score of that ball game, and it's the only time that Indiana has won in that building.
Wow.
And that's 23 years ago. And obviously last year, Indiana, if you could believe this, Indiana gave Wisconsin all they could handle last year and took them into overtime before getting beat. So it's time. This team, it is time to get this done. And here's the thing about Wisconsin. They're the same team that they have been all those years. They have the system in place.
Scrappy.
Yeah. I mean, they know what they're doing. Their system is perfect for them. They recruit players to their system. Greg Gard has continued on what Bo Ryan built, and without question, it's going to be a real challenge. But I like what I see from this Indiana basketball team, and we'll see if they can get it done.
That's right.
I was trying to. Last year, the average age of the Wisconsin team was older than the Chicago Bulls. This year, it's only it's 22 and a half years old, which is still old for an average. Wow. So you've got some seasoned dudes there. But Don, we can't tell you how much we appreciate you. I hope you enjoy the rest of the week. Tonight, of course, back out inside Indiana basketball with Mike Woodson at Southern Stone Restaurant, correct?
Yep, 7:05 this evening, and then of course Wednesday night it's a 7 o'clock tip time on Wednesday, which is really good when you're on the road to play a 7 o'clock game. You love that, and then of course Merrimack on Sunday.
Yeah, Merrimack. You know that basketball power. I'm not even sure where Merrimack is, but
it's in New York, big boy.
There you go. I'll look that up. Don Fischer, you are the best, man. We thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, guys. Good talking to you. See you guys.
Voice of the Hoosiers, Don Fischer, joining us for always a fun time here on Mondays.